Hi, welcome to another Two Pondering Pagans Quick Tarot with Salann. So today I think I'm going to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about a different style of read that I have not done on any of the quick tarots yet, but I am familiar with, and it's quite different. It's also very helpful if you are learning and want to learn specific meanings. There are two ways to do it. The first way is directed reading. And the directed reading is very specific to you have something you want to know about specifically. And what you do is you will go through after shuffling and clearing your deck, and you'll go through the whole deck and find one of the major arcana cards that deals with the thing or the system or question that you have specifically. So for example, if I want to know what do I need to work on manifesting from a magic perspective this week, I might look for the Magician. And I'm going to shuffle my cards. I'm going to go through the whole deck and I'm going to find the Magician. I'm going to lay him in the center, keeping the deck separate, and then the cards, 2 cards before and 2 cards after him, are going to be included in the reading. And that's how I'll read the 2 past things that I need to deal with and the 2 future things I need to improve on or add to. The other way of doing it in a less directed manner with this type of a reading is just going through the deck until you see the first major arcana card and doing the same thing. The 2 before and 2 after become your things you need to eliminate or work on to remove, and the things you need to add. And so we're going to do that today using a Barbara Moore steampunk deck, which is my favorite deck in the world. And the reason I chose this one is because this is the deck I feel most comfortable and connected with. So I'm really excited to use this different style of reading with you today so that you can learn a different process. Now, I'm not using the directed method where I go through and pull. I'm just going to go through the deck until I get to the first major arcana card. And then we will select it and see what comes before and after. And we'll put those cards in place and see what we get. So we're going to do another quick little shuffle. I have shuffled the deck quite extensively prior to this. Just to make sure everything's nice and clean, did my normal meditation using the fourfold breath and imagery to align chakras and kind of organize myself and get in the correct mood. Hopefully I'll be able to add some music at some point, but right now I can't because of YouTube algorithms, and using other people's music in general is not a good thing anyway. But I will get together here soon, and we're going to make some of our own music. It's probably going to be crappy, but we're going to put it on and use it anyway, right? Even if it's just a few melodies. So anyway, we have got a shuffled deck, and let's get started. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my deck, and I'm going to go through, immediately the second card is Judgment. So now I'm going to take the Judgment and set it down. And unfortunately, that means there's only 1 card before Judgment. So one thing to work on, that was the Ace of Swords. So that goes behind Judgment. So now we have Judgment in the middle. We have the Ace of Swords behind him because that's what was the first card pulled. And we're adding the Queen of Wands and the 5 of Pentacles as the next card. Now, interestingly, this is normally a 5-card spread, but it can't be this time, obviously, because there's the second card pulled was Judgment. So that's my major arcana that I want to work on today. So let's talk about Judgment. There are a lot of things that Judgment could mean. Now, in a reading, it could be different, and it's going to change depending upon the cards that are around it. Now today, through meditation and through just my relaxation, having pulled the Judgment card, and for a weekly read, it's very clear to me what it's about. And that is not only a change in judgment from myself, but a change in the attitude of judgment energies this week. And I'm really excited about that because this is something that really needs to happen. Now, this type of read may not speak to everybody listening, and I just want to point that out because who it resonates with, it's going to be specific to, but that doesn't mean you can't still use the information and really, use it for you for whatever it works. So for me, Judgment is talking about the energy that we need to work on this week and what we need to do to reduce judgment, to adjust judgment. Now, In a tarot reading, traditionally, I might see judgment as it's time to pay the piper. It's time to be judged. And if you've gotten something or you've benefited from something, it's time to pay up on that. But in this particular case, we're going to use it as an energy for the week, right? So judgment isn't always a bad thing. We have to judge certain things. We have to judge risk. We have to judge safety. But what we shouldn't do is judge people as groups to do that. Even, sometimes it's, I think, personal opinion here, that it is okay to judge people in a specific instance where you may feel or be in a situation that's uncomfortable in order to protect yourself or protect your family. So there's judgment, but the judgment we're talking about is the ungarnered judgment, or the judgment of somebody without information, or the prejudgment of somebody or of something. Like, that's never going to work. Well, how do you know? You haven't tried it. You can't judge it until you've seen it. All those people are always rude. I'm like, judgment. We need to know those individuals before we can say, something about all of them. So judgment is our theme here. We're going to take the one step back and look at the first card, the very first card, Ace of Swords. Remember, when I pulled judgment was the second card. That means Ace was in my hand. I wasn't looking at it. Well, technically I was. But I wasn't necessarily using it for the read until I found judgment, and then I do the two that came before it and the two that comes after it when you're pulling it. So the one that came before it was Ace of Swords. Would I have been further in the deck? There might have been two cards because I pulled two before, two after, but in this case there's not. Suppose you could probably pull from the back of the deck at that point if you want two cards, but we're just going to take it what it is. So let's talk about Ace of Swords. Interesting. Judgment. Decision. Ace of Swords is a true decision-making card for me. It is the initiation of that air strength. And what do you do with a single sword? Single swords have two edges, right? You have two edges on your sword. No funny things about my imagery here. Two edges to the sword. You can cut on both sides. Now, when you cut things, and I've said this before, to me, swords, I always start with the actual thought of a card so that I can help with imagery if you're learning new. So the sword has two edges, so you can cut twice, and both with one swing. You back swing, forward swing, you're going to cut. Now, are you cutting somebody because you're angry at them? Are you cutting people with your words? Or are you cutting things in your life that you don't need? Well, the other two cards are going to tell us that. But when the Ace of Swords, it's that raw sword energy. To me, swords are air, so that raw energy isn't just raw air energy. It's the epitome of all things that are and go into what makes air element air. It is the search for knowledge. It is the expansion of self, because air can be compared to, let's say, oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide that's in our atmosphere. Those are the three most prominent gases in our atmosphere, and gases try to expand to the size of the container that they are in. Of course, there's differences in what we see because of the properties of what air is around us, like all around me. So think about that when you're talking about swords, right? You're going to think about, okay, this is telling me something that is about expansion, constant growing. It's about that thirst for maintaining and getting more out of what you're working with. In this case, since it's behind in this type of reading, I'm saying, or the cards are saying rather, that this is something that needs to be reduced or removed or cut out. So in other words, reduce your judgment. Reduce your decision making that you're making too fast on somebody else or something else because you don't understand it, or you haven't taken the energy to understand it, or you think you already do and maybe have a little hubris about it. So even if you're the expert in the field of botany and you go to somebody and say, you're going to kill your plants that way, at least stop and consider the other factors first before you make the judgment that's not going to work. So for this next week, I really would ask and think of myself to focus on not judging by cutting out those things where I decide too fast or where I make too many things too fast. And I want to do that because that's going to reduce judgment, right? So then I move to the forward cards, since I have two. We have the Queen of Wands, Five of Pentacles. Now I will again say, and I say this a lot in these quick tarots and all my tarot tarot readings really, that court cards like kings, queens, knights and knaves, pages, those cards in the minor arcana are generally about people. It can either be the querent or it can be the people around the querent. The querent's the person asking the question. So all of you on here that are watching this and staying on this, all of you would be the querent in this particular instance. So either you or somebody around you is represented by the Queen of Wands. Now, taking into it the fact that we have a Judgment as our main card and we have the Ace of Swords, that initiation, that one, I'm going to take this to mean you. So as the querent you, this is what it's representing. So me as a read, since it's a weekly, not a directed reading to an individual person, I'm going to take it also to mean me. So it's not the people around me, it's the individuals. So I need to express my Queen of Wands this week. And how do I express my Queen of Wands? Well, the Queen to me is the top card in a deck as far as that representation of the element. The Wands are your fire and initiatory and starting process. So if I take judgment and I start reducing how I judge other people, which, you know, you can say you're non-judgmental, but everybody does it at some point sometimes. I'm going to Ace of Swords, start cutting that down and stop making these quick decisions this week and just let things be as they are without judgment as much as possible. That's going to allow my inner Queen of Wands to come out and say, okay, now you can actually create the things you want to create. You can relax and do the things that are passionate. You need to allow those things to grow and come out. And if you don't, then you're going to be stuck in that judgment phase. And the energies are really high. So aces, you know, number ones on the grand scheme of minor arcana, those are raw, full of energy. Queens, full of energy, but refined. They're at the top of their matriarch. You know, the full understander and emotional bringer and thought process of all of it. So bring out that inner queen, and, you know, if you want to, you can bring out that inner queen. But we are really talking here about the Queen of Wands and bringing out that inner part of you that is and wants to be creative, but maybe you haven't been able to be, or you, for some reason, haven't allowed it out. The best way to let her out is to get these judgmental aspects away and use that Ace of Swords to cut off that decision making and just let things be for a minute before you jump into a decision. And then our fourth card in this particular read, again, generally there are 5 cards, but in this one it's 4, is the Five of Pentacles. So this is another thing that you need to add energy to in order to bring these energies for the week into a good place. And so the Five of Pentacles is generally referenced to an earth. It's also representative of financials, of wealth, of things that you hold on to. So perhaps in this particular case, as you lower your judgment and start cutting some of those pieces away, and you start bringing out your inner Queen of Wands, you also need to throw some 5 energy in there. Now, 5 energy is generally negative at some point, and using that because that's what most people understand, negative, positive. I don't want to get on a tangent, but I will say I don't necessarily believe in negative and positive energy. I do believe in some polarities, but that polarity is on a scale. But anyway, I'm using the term just because it's easier for most people to understand. So let's say this. In general, with a Five of Pentacles, what you're thinking or the energy that's coming back is you've gone to the people that you trust to rely on, and they have turned you away. You are trying to escape something or trying to get away from a process or a pathway for you, and it's a problem because you went to the person you thought you could trust, and they wouldn't help you, and they turned you away. So how do we adapt that to make sense in this reading from tarot, right? We're talking about judgment. We're talking about cutting out our fast snap decisions and bringing out our inner Queen of Wands. Well, this energy you want to bring into is a little bit of escapism. Don't forget your problems. Don't cut them out, but allow them to lie for a minute. You know, if you are in a situation where you are just stressed out, you're so crazy, and you're taking it out maybe on other people around you, bringing out your inner queen with that wand and that energy of expression and creativity and fire, and coupling it with your Five of Pentacles energy of rely on yourself. You got this. You're going to carry that. You don't need an external person to validate you. Don't search. Don't go to the person that you normally trust to give you the answer. Go to them to co-create. So right now, maybe they don't have the energy to help you. Maybe they are themselves in a place where they can't provide you. And if that's the case, don't judge that person for doing it either, just to make that clear, because not everybody can always help. Just because somebody turned you away or somebody's unable to help you in your situation doesn't mean that they don't care or they don't want to. Perhaps they can't. And so the real back end of this really comes down to is looking at the situation of a judgment. So judgment energy is all around this week. We're going to not judge quickly. We are going to cut our quick decisions and give them time. We're going to bring out our inner Queen of Wands and start being creative and allow that creativity to grow and blossom, even if you think you suck. And you are going to rely on yourself to do this, and you're going to include people around you in it, but you're not going to have them tell you what you need to do or provide you the thing that you're missing. You need to find that. So for this week, that's the read I have from the Steampunk Tarot by Barbara Moore. Hopefully this has given you some insight. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear what you have to say. So make sure you comment below. If you like the videos, subscribe. We have quite a few different videos that we're working on popping up and putting together. So lots of things planned, and hope you enjoyed. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of the week.